Last year, Utah fans were told that everything would be just fine. Cam Rising's coming back. The team was picked to contend for a Big 12 title in its first year out of the Pac-12. They had leadership and identity and the toughness to make the transition look seamless. But sometimes the body just can't follow where the will wants to go. Cam never got right. The season never stabilized, and by the end of it, Utah had its first losing season since 2013. But today, I want to tell you a different story. Not about last year's disappointment, but about why everything could change this year. And it starts with a quarterback. A 5'11", 190-pound quarterback from New Mexico named Devon Dampier. A guy most of the country still doesn't really know about, but by November, they just might be calling him the most valuable player in the Big 12. Now, let's not sugarcoat it. Utah was a disaster offensively last season. They had the worst passing grade in the Power 4. They had 4 different starting quarterbacks in 12 games. They had one of the worst receiving grades in all of college football. And you want to know how a preseason top 15 team finishes 5-7 and misses a bowl game? Well, that's how. And it's a shame because that defense was top 15 in EPA per play. They had a nasty front seven. They could give you single high looks, blitz heavy aggression. The Utah defense was still Utah, but the quarterback position, it didn't just underperform, it sank the whole ship, which is why this offseason, the entire program from Kyle Whittingham to the fan base to the folks in Vegas has been holding its breath. Not because they think they'll bounce back, because they know who's walking through that door. Let me introduce you to Devon Dampier. You probably didn't watch New Mexico football last year, and I don't blame you. But this guy was an absolute problem in the Mountain West. He had 31 total touchdowns for 1,000 rushing yards and an 86.5 rushing grade, which is good for 3rd best in the country for quarterbacks. He also tied for the national lead in missed tackles forced alongside a guy named John Mateer that a lot of us know. If you like quarterbacks who can break the pocket and make things happen, Dampier is your guy. If you like quarterbacks who can run behind the best offensive line in the Big 12, Dampier's your nightmare. Now, is he perfect? No. He's gonna need to clean up some of his decision making. Last year, he was trying to play Superman behind a pretty shaky line with G5 level weapons, but what Utah's giving him is certainly an upgrade in every direction, and it's a perfect fit. We got to talk about this offensive line first things first, though, because what Utah has built up front might be the best unit in the country. Not just the Big 12, the entire country. It starts with Spencer Fano. He's one of the best run blockers in all of the sport, best in the Power 4, I think, and a potential top 10 pick. You talk about Caleb Lomu. He's also a legit first-round tackle prospect. Also have a guy in Tanoa Togiai who's one of the best guards in the Power 4 also. All 5 starters returned. They brought depth in the transfer portal. They don't just block, they maul you. And this is exactly the type of front that you want for a quarterback like Dampier. You want him in play action. You want him with clean pockets. Give him time to throw, make some reads. You want him moving around a little bit. You want him in the zone run game. This offensive line allows anything that you want to do on the offensive end of things. You don't need him to throw it 40 times. You need him to do exactly what you did in New Mexico in an RPO system. Be in rhythm, have protection, and with the run game, you can scare some people actually offensively. Utah didn't just get Dampier, they brought in his offensive coordinator too in Jason Beck. Also brought in his top receiver in Ryan Davis, although I don't know how much run he's really going to get, but that's still worth something of note. Even added a pair of intriguing backs in Wayshawn Parker from Washington State and a bruiser from Utah State to round out the ground game. Now the question, are there enough weapons for them? The receiving core still worries me a little bit. They don't have a proven star, no elite separator. That's kind of what the RPO game can be for you if that's what you want your bread and butter to be. The thing that excites me is if Dampier can even be a 10% more consistent passer, if Utah can run the ball as effectively as I think they're going to be, it might not even matter how he throws the ball, because every linebacker in the conference is going to be crashing toward the line of scrimmage to take away the run. That's when Dampier can kill you off a play action, making some tight window throws over the middle. He did that frequently last year in the RPO game. Now, let's not forget, Utah's defensive identity is still intact. I look at this like we've always said with Iowa, if they just had an offense, man, they are a top 10 program. I think the same thing with Utah here. Morgan Scalley is still the coordinator. He's the coach in waiting, and you know what that means. This unit is still going to be, at worst, a top 25 unit. At best, probably a top 15, top 10 defense. The D-line needs to gel. Logan Fano is back off an injury, but I trust them quite a bit. Linebacker unit, Leovani Damuni is back. Secondary has quite a bit of weapons there as well. They even have one of the best safeties in the country that I don't think anybody knows about, Tao Johnson. He's a single high freak. He's a heat-seeking missile. It allows them to be super aggressive on the defensive end of things. I think he's going to be a future star. But the bottom line is this defense is still hell to prepare for. Now, it might not be paired with the worst offense in the Power 4, which means the ceiling is very high for Utah. And let's talk numbers. The win total's hovering right around 7.5 over on FanDuel. The over is juiced to -170. So Vegas is really looking at this as an 8-ish win team. Vegas sees what I see. And Utah is currently tied for the 3rd best odds to win the conference behind Kansas State and Texas Tech. Looking at the schedule though, you got week 1 at UCLA. You got Dampier versus Nico Iamaleava in the Rose Bowl under the lights. I think that's must-see TV. But then you look at the conference schedule, and one of the reasons I love them is they get Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas State all at home. And you do not want to go into Salt Lake City this year because it is already a death trap, and they have home field in their biggest games in the conference. If Utah stays healthy, and Dampier is even 80% of what I saw him last year in New Mexico, this is a 9-win or 10-win team that could win the conference and make the college football playoff. It's not even to mention that last year they had 5 one-possession losses. If they flip just a couple of those, they're in Arlington playing for the Big 12 title. And I'll leave you with this. Utah didn't fall off because their program crumbled. Far from it. I trust Kyle Whittingham too much. They fell off because they had no quarterback. Now they've got one. They've got a dynamic, electric, fearless quarterback who changes everything. And if Devon Dampier is really that guy, then you can forget the bounce back. I'm talking about a breakthrough this year.